Hello there, and welcome everyone that's watching this live stream viewing from Ludham on the boat race trial for Oxford. The race will be off at 1 o'clock road over the championship course after a gap of 2 years, the COVID year of 2020 when there wasn't a boat race, and of course in 2021 when the boat race was on the Great Ouse up in Ely. So I'm Martin Cross, and with me to take you through this afternoon's races is Camilla Hadland.
Morning, Martin. Well, no, afternoon, just about actually. No, excited to be back on the championship course for what feels like the first time in a while, right?
It does feel like the first time in a while, and it's just brilliant. We've had, of course, the unfortunate cancellation of the trial women's boat races, both for Oxford and for Cambridge. So it does feel like a real bonus that Oxford and Cambridge, certainly Oxford, because the crews are on the water. So we know this race is going to happen, and we hope Cambridge's race happens tomorrow. But it does feel like a real bonus that we've got these races happening. And I know there's a lot of excitement in the rowing community about those.
Yeah, definitely. And I think given the quality that we've got this year across both camps, both Oxford and Cambridge, Cambridge and then Oxford men and women, it's going to be the first opportunity we get to see them in action and seeing some of those really talented oarsmen and women, especially on this race here, particularly the Oxford men's side. We've got a couple of really talented scullers making the switch to sweep that we'll see maybe for the first time going head to head. And a couple of Olympians in each crew, which is always amazing to see. I think perhaps this year is maybe one of the best quality boat races in terms of Olympic caliber we've got across both sides, right?
Yeah, well, I did talk to both coaches yesterday, and more of that shortly in terms of what Sean Bowden said. But I asked him just how strong was this squad, and he said it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest squad that he's basically seen. And I asked Rob Baker, the Cambridge coach, the same, and he said, since I've been coaching in 2018, this is the strongest squad that I've seen. So both clubs have got fantastic strength in depth, but I think you look at Oxford's strength and you kind of like drool almost. I mean, just to get in this. Very happy there, doesn't he, Camilla?
He does. Some great pictures of each of these individuals. So yeah, just once again, Crossy, tell us a little bit more about our bow in the Gondor crew, Chris Hull.
Well, Chris Hull, his dad, rode in the 1987 boat race, the famous boat race, improbably won by Oxford. The True Blue film and book was made about it. So his dad, Richard, was the 5-man in that. And Chris, as you can see, is rowing at Oriel College in Oxford. He's got dual citizenship from the USA and the UK, and he is studying a DPhil in engineering science.
Yeah, one of our many Americans that we'll have contesting in the Oxford lineups. Moving on, our next athlete sits at 2. One of our returning Blues, Crossy, James Forward.
Yeah, James Forward is from Pembroke College and from Nottingham High School, which a lot of good rowers come from Nottingham High School. He's just 19 years of age, I think, or if he's not 19, he's only just 20. He's doing that popular course, philosophy, politics, and economics at Pembroke. And he got a gold in the 8 at the under-23 European Championships, rowed in the 3-seat in that boat. And of course, was a blue in 2021 when Oxford lost to Cambridge by, I think, about 1.5 lengths, 1.25 lengths, seem to recall.
Yeah, but it was very, very close for the majority of the race. Before that, I would say surprise defeat. You know, we've got a lot of strong returning Blues here. James Ford, very surprisingly, only picked up a sweep blade for the first time ever when he went to Oxford last year and making his Blue debut. He learnt to row rather than scull whilst at the university. So next up in the 3-seat, it's Henry Pearson, a debutant for Oxford and a former winner of the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup for Eton College, Crossy.
Yes, and another rowing dad, Adam Pearson. I was actually going head-to-head against Adam Pearson this morning on the Molesey stretch as the Molesey Masters 8s, the leg ends, did their Christmas row. But Henry won a junior bronze medal as part of the British 8 in 2019 on the Olympic course in Tokyo. And of course, in the same year, he took the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup at Henley. So a lot of great kudos to Henry. And I think Henry's aim is to try and get into ISIS, the reserve boat. So this is a big day for him to show just what he's got.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing what every one of these athletes has to offer onto the table for both the Blue Boat and the reserve crew. Next up, a man that will be trying to resume his place in the Blue Boat after appearances over the last 3 years. Our president for Oxford this year, Martin Baraxo.
Yeah, Martin is the president, returning Blue, of course. He was a 3-seat in the 2021 boat race. He's got that representation in the Canadian 8, which wasn't so successful in the 2019 World Championships. Rowed at Princeton, 27 years of age. That's Martin Baraxo.
Next up, one of our Olympians here that have come across to study here at Oxford, Barnaby de Last, the Swiss Olympian that finished 5th at the Tokyo Olympics in the double scull. So transferring across here from sculling to sweep, Crossy.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I had a long chat with him the other day. He's a great guy, completely fluent in English, as I guess you'd expect. He's at Christchurch College. I think the thing rowers will want to know about him is his best 2K erg time is 5:40 dead, and he was so frustrated. It was 5:40 dead, Camilla, and it didn't flick over to 5:39.9, so he could go sub 5:40. But Barnaby is going to be putting it down in the 5-seat of the Oxford 8, of the Gondor 8.
Yeah, and he's going to have to go head to head with his doubles partner, who we'll talk about a little bit later on, who sits in the Rohan boat on the same side. So effectively, he's competing for a seat in the Blue boat against his Olympic teammate from Switzerland. But we'll talk more about that when we get onto Rohan. Next up in the Gondor crew at 6th, someone I'm very excited about and their progress, David Ambler. It's been great to see his journey up through the ranks, and amazing to see him here trying to go for a boat race blue.
Yeah, Grandin Stewart's winner in 2021, former St Paul's schoolboy, rode at Harvard as well. I think he's probably someone that will be looking to go to Paris in 2024 as part of the British squad. 24 years of age, a real talent, and in the stern of this boat in the 6th seat.
Yeah, and it's going to be an American rhythm set here with 6 and 7. It's in the 7 seat. Another Harvard alumni, Liam Corrigan, who made his senior debut at the Olympic Games for the USA in the men's 8 this summer.
Liam Corrigan is the most amazing seat racer. I think he's hardly ever lost a seat race. I heard that from Chris Korzanowski. Got into Mike Tate's 8. Phenomenal guy. I thought he would be in the stroke seat, but they've seen him in the stroke for a couple of races that Oxford have done. They want him in the 7 seat behind the next guy we're going to look at from Germany.
Yeah, Tassilo von Müller, the stroke seat from Germany, an under-23 bronze medalist, so not a bad person to have driving your crew down the championship course. And yet another American University alumni. He was a Princeton boy, von Müller. So again, I'm sure very fierce when it comes to side-by-side 8s racing.
Yeah, interesting choice to put the lad in the stroke seat of the 8. We'll talk more about that, but
Here's our Cox now. This is Oliver Perry, another Etonian. He actually raced with Henry Pearson back in that Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup 8 in 2019 that took home the win. He was the ISIS Cox back in 2019, so here trying to secure his blue 2 years later. He would have been the Blues Cox in 2020, but unfortunately, of course, we all know what happened that year. So again, an opportunity for him to showcase, and very important here for the Cox is actually, Crossy, that's one of the things that these Trial VIIIs can really shed a light on is how the Coxes are performing.
That's right. And we'll have to hurry through, I think, the Rohan crew who are next up.
So in the bow seat for Rohan, Chris Rimmer, he was in the ISIS crew last season, 2021. He learnt to row at Durham University and is studying to become a vicar at Wycliffe Hall.
25 years of age.
Next up, Jan Stratmann in the 2 seat, another German who studied in Switzerland, rode up against some of the Swiss at the Swiss Internationals. He's never raced international, but at the Swiss National Championships, studied over there before coming across to Oxford.
22 years of age.
Raymond Rossley in the 3 seat. We talked about his doubles partner a little bit, Crossy, Barman Habib Dalaz.
Yeah, and Roman is also on stroke side, and he came 7th in the Rio Olympics in the quadruple scull, and of course 5th in Tokyo. It was a very disappointing result for those guys. They were hoping to be on the podium, but there we go. That's another story.
In the 4 seat, an Aussie, Jack Robertson, fresh from the University of Cal Berkeley, an under-23 competitor for Australia in the men's 8, and again studying sociology at Green Templeton College.
Jack Robertson, 23 years of age.
Next up, a very, very seasoned blue for Oxford University, Augustin Wambasset, the Belgian Princeton alumnus. He rose in the 2019 blue boat, last season's blue boat, and of course was named in the squad for 2020 for the cancelled race. He's probably the most seasoned athlete across both squads, I would say, Crossy, not just Oxford, but for Cambridge as well.
First Belgian to row in the boat race.
Tobias Schroeder at 6. We talk about seasoned athletes. Here's another one that sits just in front of Van Bersay. The British athlete was in the 2019 crew, of course, the 2020 lineup, and 2021 was in that 8 that lost on the Great Ooze in Ely. Under 23 gold medalist there, linchpinning this crew in the 6th seat.
Yeah, he rode at 4 on that occasion.
In the 7th seat, Josh Bousman-Jones, another British athlete. He was in the ISIS crew in 2019 and named in that lineup for 2020 as well. He did make the step up to the blue boat last season in 2021 and currently the only athlete to hold both the World and European Championship title, Crossy.
Great shout that. Rode in the 7th seat in both those crews.
Now, another athlete I'm very excited to see here lining up in the stroke seat, Charlie Elwes of Great Britain, fresh from the Tokyo Olympic Games, an Olympic bronze medalist from the men's 8. What a rhythm setter here.
Great to see him in the stroke seat.
And lastly, our cox for Rohan. This is Jack Totem, the Welsh cox from Monmouth School, who is studying for an undergraduate in history, Crossy.
Yeah, my subject's history. And there's your lineup. Jack Totem, the cox, just 20. Again, as we said, with Ollie Perry coxing Gondor, a massive day for both coxes. Back on the championship course after a gap of about 2 years. But it was interesting talking to Sean Bowden, really, about how he selected, as we see there, the view down to the boat race start. If you're tuning into this presentation by Ludum of the Trial Oxford 8s for the Gemini boat race, the Gemini sponsored boat race, then welcome. It's great to have you with us. I'm Martin Cross. You can see with me is Camilla Hadland, and the 8s are just spinning downstream of Putney Bridge and coming, well, with the stream. The tide's flowing in, so potentially we call it upstream, but they're rowing with the incoming tide, and they will be down shortly.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes before we start, but it'd be interesting to hear from you, Crossy, sort of what Sean Bowden said he'd be looking out for, out of today's race. It's obviously used as quite an information gathering tool.
It really is. I sort of said, why haven't you got Liam Corrigan in the stroke of your 8? Because he stroked, the US Olympic 8. And he said, we've seen what Liam can do. He's actually at 7 in Gondor. We've seen what he can do. He brings a number of things to the stroke seat. But there are some other things that we like that Tassilo brings. And so I'm going to shove Liam Corrigan in the 7th seat. So I think that's a key rhythm, sort of how those guys are going to work together. Tassilo von Müller and Liam Corrigan in the Gondor crew that will be on Surrey. And then looking at Charlie Elwes, he said he loves what Charlie Elwes can bring. He's got good leadership qualities, and he's got a number of great qualities that they'd like to use. He said they want the biggest contribution from the best guys, and Charlie Elwes is one of the best guys in this very strong Oxford squad. So he is at stroke the crew on Middlesex, which is on the right of your picture, that is from Rohan. So obviously, he said we're looking out for what the coxes do, get good exposure to the boat race course, get experience of the umpires. They've got telemetry on the boats, so they'll be looking at the forced time curves as well. A lot of information that the coaches, Sean Bowden, the lead coach from Oxford, will be taking from this race.
Yeah, I think we can't understate as well here, Crossy, that the majority of these athletes haven't rowed on the boat race course. Well, if they have, it would have been a long time ago, and certainly not in this kind of environment. We've got a whole heap of not only new squad members to either side, but even those who did make the Blue Bait in 2020 and 2021 haven't actually raced this course because everything's been cancelled.
Yeah, I think Augustin Wambusay, who got his blue in 2019, I think when Cambridge won the boat race. So he's had experience, but I think that's probably about it. And of course, Oxford missed their entry in the Force Head, which happened when was it? Early November. So they haven't had experience racing on the river. But they're the 2 8s, and the coxes have got their hands up. We're shortly going to start this trial race.
Yeah, so you can see there both coxes, Perry and Totem, with hands up. We've got Oliver Perry on the left coxing the Gondor crew that chose Surrey. They won the toss and they've opted to go on the Surrey station closest to the Putney embankment. On your right, Jack Totem holds his hand in the air for Rohan on Middlesex, and we'll wait to see this alignment. It doesn't look like we've got too bad of conditions here, actually, with the wind.
Yeah, gentle winds, northeast, I think a little bit of a tailwind. And the crew on the left of your picture is the crew stroked by Tassilo von Müller, Liam Corrigan in that, Barnaby DeLars and Dave Ambler. They are in the crew on the left of your picture. The Gondor crew, and on the right of your picture, stroked by that Olympic bronze medalist Charlie Elwes, Josh Bousman-Jones, Tobias Schroeder, Augustin Wambusay, Roman Roesley down there in the 3 seat. They are on the right of your picture.
Yeah, and both of these crews. Of course, we get some interesting names through the years of the Trial VIIIs crews, a tradition dating back to 1859 Trial VIIIs. This year, Oxford men's squad have opted for Gondor and Rohan, as we've already mentioned, which are Lord of the Rings references to their alumnus J.R.R. Tolkien. And we're underway already. That was very quick off the start there for Rohan on the Middlesex side, Crossy.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure quite how level the crews look, but we're looking at the crew on the far side. Tassilova and Muller closest to us. Both crews are bow side stroke, which must be one of the first, I think, for the Trial VIIIs. And they're edging over close to that Surrey bank. You can see the crew on Middlesex, stroke by Charlie Elwes. That is closest to us on the camera. The big Rio Olympian, formerly from Yale University in the States, taking his crew off in a very strong rhythm. The umpire's is following. I would say that Rohan, yeah, they're up a little bit. Elwes' crew was up, and I think I picked Gondor, the crew on the left-hand side, to be the fastest crew, but that's an early lead for Elwes' crew.
Yeah, absolutely. We've probably got about a third of a length here to the crew Rohan on the Middlesex side. No tideway experience really to note for Jack Totem here. This is a big matchup for him to go and try and knock a blow out of Oliver Perry, who would have been that Blue Boat Cox in 2020. So if he can prove his worth in the Cox's Street on the less favourable station here, it will certainly give Sean Bowden something to think about. But a really good drive here off the start for this crew on the right-hand side of your picture.
So Elwes and Bozeman Jones in the stern of the crew on the right-hand side of your picture, the Rohan crew working really well together. I have to say, Camilla, that's what you love. You know, if you just get off the start, the boat's moving, you get a little lead. They're moving out to what, about half, three-quarters of a length. That's a significant margin to have. Also, they've got the inside of this first Middlesex bend, which is fantastic. And you've got it all to do in the Gondor crew. Tassilova, Muller, Liam Corrigan behind him, Dave Amblin, Barnaby Delaz's big ergo scores in that 8. And they certainly should have some pace down the second part of this course. But at the moment, they trail.
Yeah, and a little bit of an aggressive steer there from Totem, coxing the Rohan crew, just pushing himself across. He wants to make sure that Gondor have to take the longest route round this bend, because it is one of the only bends that Middlesex has to capitalise on. And he's certainly doing that well. Look at all that dirty water that the stroke siders are pushing down back onto the Gondor crew.
Yeah, they've nearly got a length now, haven't they? That is a fantastic start by Elwes and Bozeman Jones. A real interesting move by the Oxford coach, Sean Bowden, to put Charlie Elwes, the GB Olympic bronze medalist from Tokyo, rode in the 5 seat of that Tokyo 8, but now he's in the stroke seat of the Rohan 8 that's leading this Oxford trial by about 3/4 of a boat length from the Gondor crew. 2 Olympians in both crews, Liam Corrigan in the crew on the left and Barnaby Delaz, the 540 ergo guy from Switzerland. He is in the Gondor crew on the left of your picture. They haven't been dropped anymore. I think they've managed to do a little bit of holding of Elwes' crew, who are on the right of your picture, who are leading, and maybe coming back into the picture.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch out here, because one of the things that we love about the boat race is just the nerves of these blades just weaving their way in and out of the water. And we are looking here at a potential overlap. They are going to have to watch out. Look, this is where we are on the river currently, just coming round this first bit by Fulham, and still quite a long way to go yet. It's certainly not over yet, with Gondor still in contention.
Yeah, and that's the data we've got from the Gondor 8, you can see, who are trying to get back into the picture. And interestingly, Rohan, struck by Charlie Elwes, moving a little bit. Jack Totem has had to move. I wonder what the umpire, Kieran Hayes, the former London Rowing Club member, the man who rowed at Skibbereen, the boathouse of the O'Donovan brothers down there in Cork. And, well, this is a very interesting race, isn't it? Do you think that von Mueller and Liam Corrigan's crew on the left of the picture have weathered the storm and are now slowly moving back in. They've got some big power. Barnaby Delars and Dave Ambler in the middle of that boat. Martin Barazzo, of course, the president in the 4 seat. Henry Pearson at 3. And it does look like they are moving slowly back on the fast starters.
No, certainly you can see there that James Forward's blade, who sits at 2, he's just having to keep an eye on it. Look, you can see his head just moving out of the boat. That's not going to be great for his stroke and not going to be great for the rhythm of the boat, but he's going to have to just keep his eyes to the left here because, look, we are facing a potential clash.
Yeah, I think so. And that's just, he's only 19 years of age, James Forward. That's a big chunk of experience. But the crews have moved apart. The umpire, Kieran Hayes, has told them to move apart. And you've got to leave space for that big red buoy coming up just by Harrods. You can see that just in the front of your picture, the navigation buoy. And the Gondor crew on the left of your screen have got to have room to get by that buoy, as indeed they have.
Yeah, now this is a really interesting challenge here for both of these coxes now. This is where we turn the advantages over for the Middlesex side, and we're now moving in towards this huge advantage for the Surrey station, which is why often if you win the toss, you go for Surrey, because this is the start of this massive sweeping bend now underneath Hammersmith, and you can just see Oliver Perry trying to get himself into the right position. And actually, I think that positioning has gained them about half a length here, Martin, and they're moving back on the crew from Rohan.
So on the left of your picture, it's the crew: Chris Hull, James Forward, Henry Pearson, Martin Barazzo, Barnaby Dellards, the Olympian, Dave Ambler, the future Olympian for Britain, Liam Corrigan, the USA Olympian, Tassilo von Mueller and Ollie Perry in the Cox's seat, moving back on the early leaders from Rohan with Chris Rimmer, Jan Stratman, Roman Rursley, Jack Robertson, the Aussie, Augustin Wambase, the Belgian, Tobias Schroeder in the 6th seat, Josh Bozeman-Jones at 7, Charlie Elwes in the stroke seat. New to him, that position. They've still got a lead. They've still got half a length. That's great for the crew on the right-hand side, the Rohan crew, so named Cox by Jack Totem. Just coming in now, Totem, isn't he? He's cutting back in, Camilla.
That was a huge cut across by Jack Totem. I think he realised how much space he'd given to Gondor round that bend underneath Hammersmith, and he's now cutting right back across. They do still have an advantage, but you can just see how that has closed. And I think it's going to be really tough here to keep Elwes and Bousman-Jones, the Stern pairing in stroke and 7. The Radley boys, both Radley alumni, setting the rhythm there in the right-hand side of your screen from Rohan. They're just in focus now. And if they can hold round this bend, they can hold Gondor. That's going to be a huge, huge plus for this combination who set this rhythm crossing.
Yeah, and you'd think that the crew on the left-hand side, stroked by Tassilo von Mueller, are desperate to get back in this race. You can see, look at that, Camilla.
Yeah, misstroke there by James Forward. We did say just 300 metres or so ago he was going to have to watch out. He's just such a young athlete. The first experience for him racing on this championship course. And of course, this wouldn't have been an issue so much on the very straight and calm stretch in Cambridge. But the Tideway is a different beast. We've got the live data now. Gondor here. That's the left-hand side of your screen. The crew trying to push back. They're at rate 35 currently. We've covered just over 3K of this course. And you can see their splits there, just trying to push it down. I'm sure Oliver Perry there, the Eton alumni, is going to be trying to keep them moving those splits down and down. 122 there, Crossy. Looks like they've responded.
Yeah, and of course, the speed over the ground we're seeing on those splits, 122.4 per 500 metres, because they're racing that with the incoming stream. 3 kilometres gone. 3.3 kilometres on this 8.8 kilometre course. We haven't quite got to halfway yet. But I think Gondor will, that's the cruise statistics on the left of your picture, will be wanting to make a move back on Rohan, who have rode a fantastic race so far. Great rhythm from Elwes and Bozeman-Jones. Tobias Schroeder, the Brit who rode at 4 in the under-23 8 that got gold in, well, earlier this year at the under-23 championships. He's absolutely setting it up from the 6th seat.
That was a beautiful push there from Rohan on the right-hand side of your picture. They've gone from being half a length now to almost 3/4 a length up, and on the advantage of the crew from Gondor. That is a real nail in the coffin for the Gondor crew, I'd say, for Rohan to be gaining more advantage at this point in the race. We do still have quite another big sweeping bend to come, but look at that advantage. They've really stuck in here, despite Gondor coming down on the splits more and more.
Yeah, that time 121.7, maybe Gondor pushing on at 34. Perhaps they're going quicker at 34, the Gondor crew on the left of your picture, than they were at 35 when they shot Hammersmith Bridge. But we're coming up to the halfway point in this race. And at the moment, well, it's Rohan's to lose, the crew on the right of your screen. They are in the driving seat. The bend is unwinding shortly for the crew from Gondor on the left of your picture, with Liam Corrigan, the USA Olympian, and Barnaby Delars, the Swiss Olympian, in that boat.
I think the other thing to note here, this crew from Rohan that we're looking at, Crossy, is that we do have two of the most experienced boat race individuals at 6 and 5, really linchpinning that boat. Tobias Schroeder at 6, another blue who has raced on the championship course, despite, not winning on that occasion. And Augustin Rambassé in the 5 seat, both of them know what it's like to row on the Tideway, know what it's like to row in this specific situation, head to head at an 8. They won't be flustered by this sort of challenge here coming back from Gondor now.
Great shout. It's interesting to look at Ollie Perry, the cox of Gondor, on the left-hand side of your screen. He's moved into the puddles of Rohan. He wants that stream that's so important, the surge of the stream, the quickest water on the course. And Rohan are moving out to over a length's advantage now. This is sensational. They've done it on the Surrey Bend. And look at that. The crew's just crossing over. They've got clear water advantage now. Rohan stroked by Charlie Elwes. What a great introduction to stroking a race. I don't know if that's the first time Elwes has been in the stroke seat in a competitive race, but certainly he's really laying it down, really working together with Bozeman Jones in the 7 seat, anchored by Schroeder in the 6 seat.
That was a really definitive move there for Jack Totem to move his crew in front of Oliver Perry's crew, in front of the Gondor crew. All of those athletes in his boat that are facing in the other direction are going to be able to see just how much of an advantage they've got now, having been on the disadvantaged station. How much energy is that going to give those guys now coming up to their own bend as we start to move through the halfway stage? Well, we're already well beyond the halfway stages of this course. They're going to be really quite enthused about this.
The speed over the ground for Gondor, who are trailing at the moment, down to 118, 119 per 500 metres. And, it's going to be really interesting, Camilla, that the coach, Sean Bowden for Oxford, will be looking at the crew in the training boat and seeing how they react. He wants to see how the guys react under pressure. And the guys in Gondor are now under pressure. They're trailing this Trial VIIIs race from the crew from Rohan out in front, stroked by Charlie Elwes. And eyes are going to be on the crew behind. How are they going to respond to this pressure of being down?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and you have to rehearse it in all situations. This is going to be good experience, even for the crew that doesn't succeed in this Trial VIIIs race. They will gain so much experience, and actually, it's worthwhile having these memories, having this training to be able to respond in these situations, deal with being behind. As I'm sure, as there always is, there will be athletes from this losing crew that will be lining up in a few months' time to take on Cambridge.
So we come to Barnes Bridge, around about 13 or 14 minutes. The record's 13:32 to Barnes Bridge, held by that Cambridge crew in 1998 that's still hold the record for the course at 16:19. No records going today. We've got the data on the crew, the trailing crew behind. Gondor up at 35. There's around about 2.5, 3 minutes to go for this race, and Gondor trying to move on to the inside track with their cox, Ollie Perry, the 20-year-old. But I think it's a little bit too late.
Just looking at the blade work from both crews, you certainly can, even to the sort of non-technical eye, you can see how much wash and how much splash there is in that Gondor crew that trails. The amount of water coming off the blades in comparison to the leading crew, Rohan, that are out up ahead. It's really visual, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It had nice locked in buried finishes in that Rohan crew, and a little bit splashy, as you say, just coming out at the back end from the Gondor crew trailing. Stroked by Tassilo von Muller, big American Liam Corrigan behind him in the 7 seat. A lot of power coming down the president in that boat in the 4 seat, the 27-year-old Martin Baraxo, and of course Barnaby Delar's 540 on the ergometer. So there's plenty of power in that Gondor boat trailing, but they just haven't managed to make sweet rhythm, sweet music with it.
Yeah, and I think actually since Rohan has got out in front, that crew of Elwes, Bousman Jones, Schroeder, Rambasay in that sort of stern four, huge lineup, they've just looked so much more relaxed, haven't they? They're just making the boat work for them. Their blade work's been much cleaner since stroke one, but what has really helped them being in front is just getting that distance per stroke, and they've not managed to move out too much more. Gondor keeping them honest, but they do just look so much more relaxed, and in comparison to Gondor, who are really chasing it.
Well, could this leave Sean Bowden with a stroke side selection headache? Because Josh Bousman Jones at 7 on stroke side in the crew that's leading at the moment has rowed so well with Charlie Elwes, but one Olympian is going to have to drop out of the Oxford Blue Boat if Bousman Jones comes in, and I wouldn't like to make that call.
No, certainly not. I mean, some of the names in this crew that are trailing, like we've already mentioned, many a time, current president Martin Baraxo. It's very rare that a president doesn't make the selection for the Blue Boat crew, but this is going to give Sean Bowden some thinking. We're into the final stretches now. The site of Chiswick Bridge on the horizon. We'll be able to see the boat race post to our right very, very soon next to Tideway Scullers School. This is the last few strokes of this race crossing.
Yes, and we're coming up to the finish, 6,300 meters on the distance road, and that's slightly less than the actual boat race course, which is 8.8 kilometers. But I think both crews started a little bit down or upstream of the line. But it is the crew from Rohan, Chris Rimmer, Jan Stratman, Roman Rursley, Jack Robertson, Augustine Wambasay, Tobias Schroeder, Josh Bousman Jones, Charlie Elwes, coxed by Jack Tutton. He's really put a good case for his selection as the Blue Cox this year. They are coming up to the line just shortly. As we see them approach Chiswick Bridge, they have a lead of clear water, the Rohan crew over Gondor, and there both crews have crossed the line. That was a great race. There wasn't too much between them, but a fantastic start from the Rohan crew, a fantastic introduction to stroking by Charlie Elwes.
Yeah, a hand goes up though here for Oliver Perry, Cox of the crew on the left, Gondor. I wonder whether he's going to contest just some of the steering there. I wonder whether he thinks if Rohan had enough room once they moved across is probably my first thought. They were very much in the wash of Rohan, but look, they managed to get the advantage, get the distance, and they did have enough room to sit there in front. That's one of the advantages of getting that lead early on. Let's see what Kieran Hayes has to say.
Yeah, the umpire going up. I guess, do you think it's unusual to see a Cox's objection? I mean, Ollie Perry, he'll feel the pressure from, having lost out in that race for Jack Totham, who, steered pretty well, really, I thought.
Yeah, there's a bit of gesticulating going on, and I think that, of course, if you're impeded in any way, right, there's always a conversation to be had with the umpire to see what their opinion is. And look, this is just the trial run, but always worth rehearsing these kind of conversations. If he felt like, Rohan were in the wrong, he needs to practice, putting his case forward. Then there's a white flag. It looks like that we're good with that result. The challenge has been dismissed from Oliver Perry, and the result looks to stand here in this Oxford University Boat Club Trial VIIIs race.
Well, I think, I guess looking at the eights beforehand, I know Sean Bowden has tried to pick two equal eights, and well, it's not, that he's done a pretty good job. I mean, what was there, like third of a length of clear water between them, so length and a third over the boat race course. That's two pretty matched eights, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that it certainly wasn't a walkover. Rohan had to work really hard to be able to get that advantage, but they stuck in when it was necessary. And even more impressively, if you saw that on boat race day, someone pressing out to a lead around their disadvantaged bend, where Surrey is supposed to have the advantage for that crew, Cox by Jack Totem, and like we said, that stern pair that did a great job, Charlie Elwes and Josh Bowsman Jones. They pushed that crew through when they shouldn't have really been gaining.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, maybe the stern pair combination of putting Liam Corrigan at 7, Tassilo von Muller in the stroke seat for the losing Gondor crew, maybe that just wasn't working as much. They weren't as slippy off, were they? They were really kind of slick, Rohan, and they went off. I'm sure they probably didn't have, a bigger 2K ergo score or bigger 5K ergo score is relevant in this case.
Yeah, I think just like we were saying, commenting towards the end, the more tired you get, the race almost 20 minutes long, it's really difficult to hold your form if you're not used to being in a crew that is practice, rehearsed, trained, which of course come a few months time, each of those crews will be drilled. They will have been in those crews for months, they'll know exactly what they're doing, but these crews have been thrown together for trial eights. That's the purpose of it, to see who can deal well under that pressure, who can deal well in crews that aren't familiar. And I think it really showed that Gondor's kind of base level was just a little bit ragged in comparison to Rohan's base level. They were able to keep drilled Rohan, the blade placements were good, they kept locked in on the bumpy water of the tideway, which Gondor just couldn't match. And actually, given the previous blues in that Rohan crew, I think that probably helped them out, despite the fact that on paper, from their sort of training scores, they could have been matched. I think experience counted for quite a lot there, Crossy.
Yeah, certainly did. I mean, I'm running through already, who he's going to put in his blue boat now, Sean Bowden. I know there's a long way for selection, a lot of seat racing to go. But you would have thought that stroke side was closed off with those 4 Olympians, Liam Corrigan, Roman Rouge, Barnaby Delars, and Angus Groom, who's out with a chronic back injury, but he's going to come back in after Christmas. You would have thought they had stroke side sewn up. But the lad Bozeman Jones, the 22-year-old, obviously had a great thing going with Charlie Elwes. So you'd say, right, Elwes at stroke, and then why not put Bozeman Jones behind him? Because you've got to find a 7-man to link up with his rhythm.
Yeah, and look, Josh Bowsman Jones is defending his seat in the blue boat. He was able to contend it in 2021, and he certainly won't want to lose it. And so, yeah, he's got the motivation, and definitely not resting on his laurels, which, for straight off the back of an Olympic season, perhaps some of the Olympians not quite as well trained or as well focused. They'll have had a bit of time off, I'm sure, after Tokyo. It opens the door for some of these athletes who perhaps don't have that pedigree behind them, and they work really hard because they want to chase and defend their seats. And I think it's a really good opportunity to demonstrate that here at Trial VIIIs, that someone like a Josh Bowsman Jones can realistically beat out some very big names.
Yeah, I know. And it, of course, has the experiment of using the guy from USA, the 24-year-old Liam Corrigan, who stroked the US Olympic eight, has the experiment of putting him in the 7 seat actually worked? I mean, his crew at Gondor lost, but only by a narrow margin. We thought the rhythm looked slicker and better in Rohan, but it's quite a big call to put Liam Corrigan in the 7 seat. And if that hasn't worked, where do you put him?
Yeah, and I guess that's a question for Sean Bowden to answer. And it's, great race. I think we got everything in that race, right? We got some tight racing at the beginning. We got a little bit of clashing. We had a big comeback round the bends. So yeah, if that is anything to go by for what we're going to get in a few months' time, it's certainly very tasty and very exciting, and I cannot wait for the boat race to take place back on its home course. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and we're back again tomorrow, Crossy, for the Cambridge Trial VIIIs as well.
Yeah, is that starting a little earlier, Camilla? I can't remember the time. Is it
a little bit later? I think we're at 1:30 tomorrow. So come back, join us again here on this streaming service powered by Ludum. We'll be covering all of the Cambridge Trial VIIIs tomorrow. We'll be kicking off coverage just after 1 o'clock for racing, starting just after 1:30. I've been Camilla Hadland. I've been commentating here with Martin Cross, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Bye, guys.